Well, it's Civil War season, and it's all your fault. Or maybe your treat, since you've been begging for it for so long, says Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson.
The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War.
Which is weird, considering the side he blames for the Civil War resisted federal authority, which is exactly what he's doing now. But he's a good guy, so it's different somehow. Besides, the first Civil War was your fault too, even though he's the guy now fighting the Union.
The extreme right in this country refused to accept the results of the Civil War.
Blue uniform, gray uniform. I don't get which one he thinks he's wearing. As always, both sides are right whenever each suits his goals. And if avoiding a war is his supposed goal, well, he sure has odd methods of conflict resolution, which are none. Hey, fight on, everybody! The city of Chicago will do nothing about it. The mayor's Civil War II press conference was actually to announce the establishment of what he calls ice-free zones, as in the city of Chicago will not allow city property like parking lots to be used as ice staging areas. Of course, he can't legally obstruct ice enforcement where it's applied, but he's saying he won't facilitate it with the use of city resources, which, while unwise and unhelpful given the state of the immigration problem nationally and in Chicago specifically, is not itself a major legal issue. State and local government is not compelled to help federal law enforcement. It's the Fed's job and jurisdiction to do that themselves. You don't have to be friends, you just can't fight them. But what happened over the weekend is something else entirely. According to written documentation and recorded audio, Chicago police refused to respond to a violent emergency in progress. This is now well beyond just, we won't help you arrest Juan and Jorge. Now it's, we won't help you even if you get shot. Or if anybody else just in the area gets shot, for that matter. According to DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, on Saturday morning in Chicago, federal immigration agents were intentionally rammed by other cars in traffic and boxed in by about 10 of these cars. Unable to move, agents exited their vehicle. One of the drivers who rammed their car then presented a gun. Agents responded by shooting first and hit this woman. This woman then fled to the hospital for treatment. This person is known to law enforcement and has doxed agents in the past and organized others to attack them. Where were Chicago police? Well, it is a pretty big city with a lot of shootings to worry about, so just a single gunshot wound probably isn't even a matter for 911 anymore. Walk it off. And I guess this lady did. But this was much more than just strained resources. This was intentional. The non-response was a direct order. According to reporting on Sunday, Chicago police were ready to respond to the incident, but were ordered to stand down by the chief of patrol for the police department. Do not respond. And it's not just according to reporting, actually. It's according to tangible evidence. In dispatch audio, we can hear a description of the incident and one of the perpetrators, and then we can hear the order. Everybody stop. We do not care about that incident at all. Do not respond.
And one is for the hit and run. This guy fled from the scene at 37th Place and Kedzie, where that offending vehicle crashed. They ran the federal agent off the road. It's a male Hispanic younger wearing all black clothing.
Yeah, send the cars in that direction. Have them stay put 2 or 3 blocks away, all right? Have them hold tight until I give you further direction, please. For the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
For 999. Chief of Patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location.
And if you think there was any misunderstanding in the voice communication, well, it's also in writing. There's a screenshot of the Chicago Police Department computer dispatch system, and it says outright, Chief of Patrols says no units will respond to this incident because the caller is an ICE agent. Plus, there's abundant video of the effects on the street. Here's video from Chicago Saturday with rioters not just throwing all sorts of objects at DHS vehicles trying to move through the area, but blocking civilian traffic too. They take over the street and act violently whenever they feel like it. This particular video extends for several minutes, and at least in any obvious way, there is not a single Chicago police officer to be seen. Chicago PD is still insisting this is all just a big misunderstanding, that the chief of patrol would never tell his force to stand down when anybody is in need of help, and says Chicago police officers were there on scene and some of them were affected by the tear gas. Okay, but at what time were they there? And after what communication? And maybe the tear gas was deployed out of necessity because they weren't there when the need for it could have been prevented. Besides, was all that documentation fake? The audio? The screenshot? Did dispatch just make up orders supposedly from the patrol chief, but not actually? If so, who's getting fired? Or did the journalists reporting this information just make it up? If so, who's working on the lawsuits? Or if the video of the absolute chaos on the streets is some kind of misrepresentation, what are the circumstances that explain this continued ongoing attack? A few key distinctions to understand about this order. It represents a radical departure from standard police practice everywhere, really. This isn't just about helping federal agents with immigration enforcement. Again, the city can decide if they'd like to do that or not. This is about who gets emergency response in that city. If city political leadership likes you, don't worry, help is on the way. But if they don't, well, hope you got a tourniquet. If not, just use your belt. And such favoritism isn't just immoral. It's also potentially against Illinois law requiring emergency response, no matter who needs it. You don't just allow crime because you like the perpetrators or dislike the victims. Secondly, such an order isn't just uncommon in policing. It's almost certainly political. And I don't just mean political in motive. That's already clear, obviously. I mean a decision made by politicians, as in the governor or the mayor makes the order and the police department follows. And there is the sense that was the case here, listening to both police and political leadership. The Chicago PD superintendent, whether we believe his version of events or not, insisted during his press conference that federal agents were justified in their use of lethal force in this case, and that Chicago PD will always respond to everyone in distress, federal agents included.
If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force. And they can use deadly force in response to stop you.
The commentary from the politicians, however, is very different in substance and tone. The mayor says that none of this is even immigration enforcement at all. Actually, this is all just racial targeting. And since it's racial injustice, well, the new union must be brave at New Gettysburg.
Black people in one van and immigrants in another. In the face of this unprecedented threat, this moment calls for unity. Black, brown, white, Asian, young, old, north side, west side, south side. We must all pull aside our differences and defend one another.
Except for the right, because they're all a bunch of Civil War instigators. But other than those fringe people who formed a majority to elect a president, this is a very inclusive unity.
Because if we allow this to continue to be unchecked, by the time we realize what's happening, it'll be too late.
Yes, first they came for the illegals. And I did not speak out because I was not illegal. And then things were pretty cool, actually, because there weren't so many illegals everywhere. Asked directly about the stand-down order on CNN, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said, despite the evidence, this is nothing but a propaganda claim.
What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are the same folks who killed a person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. They killed somebody. So here it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access the facts. They are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
Well, we don't have all the facts, but we do know that DHS is a bunch of lying murderers. Those are quite strong claims of fact, actually, but it is entirely unshocking to learn that the claim is unfactual anyway, and he's doing exactly what he's accusing. Well, hey, did you hear that ICE just killed an unarmed guy in Chicago for no reason at all? Oh, you didn't? Well, that's because they didn't. The guy was a Mexican illegal with a criminal record. Agents tried to arrest him. He tried to flee in his car and hit one of the agents, who ICE says was then dragged. So agents shot the guy and he died. Did he have a gun? No. But did he use a weapon? Yes. He didn't use it effectively, though. The agent allegedly hit by the car is seen on local police body cam saying his injuries aren't severe. Nothing major is the quote.
Just a left knee injury and some lacerations to the hands. Elbow. Nothing major. Nothing major.
And so the narrative is spinning that the use of force was unjustified. But that's the thing about justified lethal force. You don't have to wait until lethal force is realized to deploy it. Only present it. If you point a gun at my face, for example, and I respond to neutralize that threat, I am fully justified, even though I'd probably say the same thing afterward. Well, I have no physical injuries from that encounter, because after all, most people weren't even injured during the Civil War either. If you asked most of the soldiers or most of the civilians even, they too would say they had no physical injuries, or at least nothing major. And yet, all of the violence and brutality of that fight was totally justified. Right, Mr. Mayor? The confusing thing about the mayor's war appeals, or warnings, insofar as we're supposed to believe he's trying to avoid it and not provoke it, is who he's even talking about. He repeatedly uses terms or phrases like Chicagoans, Americans, our people.
Chicagoans are clear. The Trump administration must end this war against Americans if this administration continues to escalate and provoke our people.
But in the context of obstructing immigration enforcement, what do those terms even mean? If Chicagoan or American or our sort of person refers to just any guy who showed up here yesterday, then those terms are defined only by physical presence in the city at any time. A tourist is a Chicagoan. If I head east down I-90, I briefly become a Chicagoan as I make my way around the Great Lakes. If I have a layover at O'Hare, I'm a Chicagoan. If that's the case, if just anybody who shows up in Chicago for any reason at any time is a Chicagoan, then aren't these ICE agents also Chicagoans worthy of the same respect and inclusion in the coveted Unity Club? The irony is they probably all are actual Chicagoans legitimately, as in U.S. citizen residents of that city, excluded from this incoherent definition by their own mayor. It's a mental puzzle that's much too difficult for me to solve, so I guess I'll just stick with the simpler one. Which side I'm supposed to be on during this Civil War II that I'm apparently cheering for all the time. What color pom-poms do I seal clap with? Because what I don't understand is Mayor Johnson's side is both pro and anti-federal power at the same time. Anybody can come here whenever they want, and there is no federal role in that. But federal control of literally everything else is preferred. Your schooling, your health care, the regulation of your job, and more, all of that is properly a matter of DC control, just not protecting you from violent foreign criminals. That is a policing matter for nobody, actually. I guess it's no more complicated than Mayor Johnson himself makes it. These sides aren't based on principle or moral truth or any philosophical coherence. They're just based on friends and enemies alone. My friends are good and my enemies are bad, so whatever side that guy's on, I'm on the other one. Now, watch in amazement as my supposed principles reverse faster than an illegal trying to escape a Chicago ICE arrest. Fair enough, Mr. Mayor. We'll take sides playground style then. Whatever side the mayor says he's on, I'm on the opposite. I know he is, but what am I? Triple stamp a double stamp. No matter what Harry says otherwise.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lord. You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
And for all the moral complexity and mystery in this world, I guess that actually is a pretty decent default perspective. How should I conduct myself in difficult, questionable situations? Well, when in doubt, pick the most anti-Chicago way possible. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams as live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.